The room erupted into chaos the moment Adelyn pulled Avery into a deep kiss, right there on the dance floor of the Grand Ballroom in downtown Chicago. It was supposed to be their perfect engagement announcement, the night they had planned for months in secret. But as their lips met with all the pent-up passion of 2 years of hiding, Adelyn's mother dropped her champagne glass. The crystal shattered across the marble like a gunshot. "What in God's name is this?" she shrieked, her voice slicing through the suddenly silent music. Avery's father, a broad-shouldered man whose construction empire had built half the North Shore, stormed forward and grabbed Avery by the arm so hard she winced. "This engagement is cancelled. Right now. How dare you two disgrace both families like this?" The 200 guests, bankers, lawyers, old-money socialites, stood frozen in their designer gowns and tuxedos, whispers spreading like poison gas. Adelyn's heart hammered against her ribs as she stared at her father, whose face had gone from polite host to volcanic red in a single second. She had known the risk. She had rehearsed this moment in her head 1,000 times, but nothing prepared her for the raw disgust in her mother's eyes or the way her younger brother Mark looked away, ashamed. At 28, Adelyn was the golden daughter of the Harrington real estate dynasty. Harvard Business School, corner office, trust fund, the whole package. She was supposed to marry a suitable man from the same circle and keep the empire growing. Instead, she stood holding Avery's hand like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Avery, 26, with her camera bag still slung over one shoulder from an earlier photo session, squeezed back hard. Her green eyes flashed defiance even as tears threatened. "We love each other," Adelyn said, voice steady despite the tremor. "This isn't a phase. We've been together for 2 years. And tonight we wanted the truth to come out with the rings." The words landed like grenades. An aunt muttered abomination under her breath. A cousin already had his phone out, filming. Security moved in, politely but firmly escorting guests toward the exits as the party collapsed into stunned silence. Adelyn's father pointed a shaking finger at the door. "Get out. Both of you. You're not welcome in this family until you fix this sickness." The word sliced deeper than any slap. Adelyn felt her knees buckle, but Avery's arm around her waist kept her upright. They grabbed their coats and slipped out into the cold October night, the Chicago skyline glittering indifferently above Lake Michigan. In Avery's battered Honda, the silence was suffocating. Avery finally spoke, voice small. "I knew it would hurt. I just didn't think it would feel like dying." Adelyn stared at the ring box still clutched in her hand, the simple white gold bands they had picked together last month. "They'll never accept us. My mother already threatened to cut me off from the company. Your dad looked like he wanted to hit me." They drove to a quiet park overlooking the lake, parked, and sat on a frost-covered bench. Avery rested her head on Adelyn's shoulder, the only warmth left in the world. Inside Adelyn's chest, 2 truths warred. The love that had saved her from a life of quiet emptiness, and the guilt that threatened to drown her. She had always been the perfect daughter. Now she was the family shame. Hours later, back at the Harrington mansion on the North Shore, the remaining relatives gathered in the wood-paneled study. Adelyn's mother poured herself a stiff drink. "The social calendar is ruined. How do we explain this to the board? The merger with Kensington Group is hanging by a thread." Her father paced like a caged lion. "We'll issue a statement, temporary confusion, youthful mistake. Adelyn will come to her senses." They never got the chance. The family lawyer, Mr. Whitaker, cleared his throat from the doorway, leather folder in hand. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Harrington Sr.'s final instructions were very clear. The reading of the updated will was scheduled for tonight after the engagement party, regardless of how the evening turned out." The room quieted. Grandfather Harrington had died 6 weeks earlier. Everyone assumed the fortune would flow the usual way, split among children and grandchildren with strict conditions. Mr. Whitaker opened the folder and began to read in his calm, precise voice. The first paragraph was routine. Then he reached the clause that stopped every heart in the room. "To my granddaughter Adelyn and her chosen partner Avery Thompson, I bequeath the entirety of my personal estate, including the Lake Forest properties, the investment portfolio valued at $42 million, and controlling interest in Harrington Legacy Holdings, on the single condition that they remain together in a committed, loving relationship. Any family member who attempts to interfere, pressure, or separate them will forfeit their own inheritance entirely. The silence was absolute. Adelyn's mother's glass slipped from her fingers and cracked on the hardwood. Her father's face drained of color. "This is insane," he whispered. "He knew? All this time?" Mr. Whitaker nodded. "Your father was quite clear. He discovered their relationship 2 years ago and chose to support it quietly. The will is ironclad, witnessed and notarized. Any challenge will trigger immediate redistribution to charity." Across town, Adelyn's phone buzzed with a single text from her brother Mark. "Grandfather's will just dropped. You and Avery get everything, if you stay together. Mom and Dad look like they've seen ghosts." Adelyn stared at the screen, the weight of the night crashing down in a new way. The very love her family had tried to destroy was now the key to a fortune that could free them forever, or tear them apart trying. She looked at Avery, asleep against her shoulder, and felt the first real crack of terror. What price would they actually have to pay for this impossible gift? The next morning the city woke to gray skies and the first frost of the season. Adelyn stood in Avery's tiny Wicker Park apartment, coffee growing cold in her hands while she reread the text from Mark. Avery emerged from the shower, towel wrapped around her, hair dripping. "You've been staring at that phone for 20 minutes. Talk to me." Adelyn handed it over. Avery's eyes widened as she read. $42 million because we love each other? Your grandfather was the only one who ever really saw us. They spent the morning on the worn couch, legs tangled, trying to process the new reality. Adelyn's mind raced through every board meeting, every family brunch where she had smiled and nodded while dying inside. "If we accept this, my parents will never forgive me. They'll fight the will. They'll drag our names through every country club in Illinois." Avery traced circles on Adelyn's palm. "And if we walk away, we lose the chance to build the life we always talked about. No more hiding, no more pretending. A studio for me. A foundation for you to help LGBTQ kids who get thrown out like yesterday's trash." By noon the first betrayal arrived. Avery's phone lit up with a Chicago Tribune alert. Prominent North Shore families in turmoil after surprise same-sex engagement announcement. The article named them both, quoted anonymous sources, describing the kiss as disturbing. Avery's cousin had sold the story for quick cash. Avery's father called immediately. "You've humiliated us. Your mother cried all night. Come home alone and we'll talk. Bring her and you're dead to us." Avery hung up shaking. Adelyn's own mother left a voicemail that cut deeper. "Darling, we can fix this. Dr. Langford has an excellent conversion program, discreet, effective. The board is already asking questions. Think of your brother's future. Think of mine." Adelyn deleted it, but the words lodged like splinters. That afternoon they drove to the lawyer's office together. Mr. Whitaker confirmed the terms. Joint ownership, monthly stipends starting immediately, but any public separation or family interference clause would trigger total forfeiture. "Your grandfather believed love like yours was rare and worth protecting," he said quietly. "He left a private letter for you both." The letter, handwritten on thick cream paper, read, "Girls, I watched you fall in love at my 80th birthday party when you thought no one noticed the way you looked at each other. I know what it costs to hide. Take the money, build something real, and never let them make you small. I'm proud of you both." Adelyn cried for the first time since the party. Avery held her tight. But freedom came with chains. By evening Adelyn's company email account was locked. Her assistant texted, "HR says your access is suspended pending review." Avery's biggest client, a conservative foundation, canceled their photo contract with a single line. "We cannot be associated with controversy." They ordered takeout and ate in silence on the floor, the weight of every lost future pressing down. Adelyn stared at the ring still in the velvet box. "Maybe we should wait. Give them time to cool off. I could talk to my father alone." Avery's face hardened. "Wait? We waited 2 years. I'm not going back into the closet for anyone. Not even for $42 million. That night they lay awake listening to sirens on the street below. Adelyn's mind spun with calculations. Mortgage on the apartment she could no longer afford, health insurance tied to the family plan. The foundation she had dreamed of starting for queer youth now suddenly possible yet poisoned by guilt. Avery whispered into the dark. "Whatever we decide together. No more hiding. No more half-lives. Adelyn kissed her forehead. But inside the war raged louder than ever. Love had won the night before. Now it had to survive the daylight. 3 days later the storm hit social media. Someone, later traced to Adelyn's cousin Lauren, posted a blurry video from the engagement party. The clip showed the kiss in slow motion with the caption, "When your perfect cousin turns out to be a dyke and tries to steal the family fortune." It went viral overnight. Comments poured in, disgust, prayer requests, job offers from real companies, death threats. Adelyn's LinkedIn profile was flooded with messages calling her a disgrace. Avery's photography Instagram lost 3,000 followers in an hour. They holed up in the apartment, phones on silent, living on cereal and each other. Adelyn's brother Mark showed up unannounced with grocery bags and a haunted look. Mom and Dad are meeting with lawyers every day. They're claiming grandfather wasn't of sound mind. But I read the letter. He knew exactly what he was doing. He hugged Adelyn hard. "I'm sorry I didn't speak up at the party. I was scared." It was the first crack of support, small but real. The next morning Adelyn received a formal letter from Harrington Legacy Holdings. Her position as Vice President of Development was under review due to public conduct unbecoming of company values. Attached was a severance package generous enough to feel like hush money. Avery lost 2 more clients by noon. They sat at the tiny kitchen table staring at the numbers. "We could take the inheritance, pay off everything, disappear to Portland or Denver," Adelyn said. Avery shook her head. "And let them win? Let them rewrite history so their version is the only one that matters? I won't let our love become their dirty secret." That afternoon Avery's mother called in tears. "Your father had a heart scare last night. The doctor says stress. Please Avery, just come home and say it was a mistake. We can get you help." Avery hung up and threw the phone across the room. "They'd rather I be miserable and straight than happy and alive." The betrayal cut deepest from her own blood. Adelyn held her while she cried, but inside her own guilt festered. Every memory of family vacations, holiday dinners, her mother braiding her hair, now poisoned. By evening they drove to a quiet beach on the Indiana border to breathe. The lake wind whipped their coats as they walked the shore. Avery stopped and turned to Adelyn. "I need to know you're in this with me. Really in it. Because if you choose them, I'll walk away. I won't be the reason you lose everything." Adelyn's answer came without hesitation. She dropped to one knee right there on the sand and opened the ring box. "Marry me. Not for the money, not for spite, not because grandfather wanted it. Marry me because I have never been more myself than when I'm with you." Avery's tears mixed with the lake spray. She said yes before the ring even touched her finger. But the decision triggered the next wave. Back at the apartment, Adelyn's father waited on the stoop. He looked 10 years older. "Come home, Adelyn. We'll fight the will together. You'll keep your name, your position, your future. Walk away from her and this nightmare ends." Adelyn felt the old pull. The safety, the approval, the life she had been groomed for. Avery stood silent behind her, giving her the space to choose. In that moment Adelyn understood the true cost. She stepped forward and closed the door in her father's face without a word. The lock clicked like a gunshot. Inside, she leaned against the wood and slid to the floor. "I just killed my family." Avery knelt beside her. "No. You chose one." The weeks that followed blurred into a grind of legal notices, whispered conversations, and sleepless nights. Adelyn's parents filed suit claiming undue influence. The tabloids ran headlines. "Lesbian heiress steals grandfather's fortune." Avery's father refused to speak to her. Her mother left daily voicemails begging her to come to her senses. Their friends split down the middle. Some offered spare rooms and takeout, others ghosted completely. Adelyn lost her gym membership when the owner cited family values. Avery's gallery show was quietly canceled. They moved into a cheap sublet in Logan Square to save money, sleeping on an air mattress that deflated nightly. One evening Adelyn came home to find Avery packing a bag. "I got offered a photography residency in Seattle, paid with housing. It's 6 months. I think I should go alone." The words landed like ice water. Adelyn's voice cracked. "You're leaving me?" Avery's eyes were red. "I'm giving you space to decide without me in the way. If you choose the money and the family, I won't hate you. I'll understand. But I can't watch you destroy yourself trying to have both." Adelyn spent that night alone on the half-flat mattress, replaying every moment from the engagement party to now. She remembered her grandfather's funeral, how he had pulled her aside weeks before and whispered, "Don't wait for permission to be happy, kiddo." At 3 a.m. she drove to the mansion, used her old key, and stood in the empty study where the will had been read. Her mother found her there at dawn. "You came back." Adelyn shook her head. "I came to say goodbye. I'm marrying Avery. I'm taking the inheritance. And I'm starting a foundation in grandfather's name for kids like us. You can fight me in court or you can be part of it. But you can't have me both ways." Her mother's face crumpled. For the first time Adelyn saw real grief, not just anger. Avery was still at the apartment when Adelyn returned. She dropped the bag and pulled Adelyn into a fierce kiss. "I couldn't leave. I tried but I couldn't." They made love for the first time since the party, not out of passion but out of pure relief that they had survived the breaking point. The next morning they met Mr. Whitaker and formally accepted the inheritance. The checks cleared. The properties transferred. But the real battle was just beginning. The court date arrived in February. Snow blanketed Chicago as Adelyn and Avery sat in the gallery behind their lawyer. Adelyn's parents sat across the aisle stone-faced. The judge listened to arguments about mental competence, undue influence, family values. Adelyn took the stand and spoke for 40 minutes about love, truth, and the man who had seen her before she saw herself. Avery testified next, voice steady, describing the years of hiding and the night everything changed. The judge ruled in their favor in less than an hour. The will stood. Outside the courthouse Adelyn's mother approached alone. "Your father won't speak to me if I do this, but I want to meet Avery properly. Maybe dinner next month. Just us." It was the smallest olive branch but it felt like oxygen. Adelyn hugged her mother for the first time in months. That night they celebrated quietly in their new Lake Forest house, the one grandfather had left them. Avery set up her studio in the sunroom. Adelyn drafted the foundation charter at the mahogany desk. But peace was fragile. Avery's father still refused contact. Adelyn's brother Mark was caught in the middle, torn between parents and sister. One evening he showed up drunk. "Dad says I have to choose." I told him I already did. He handed Adelyn an envelope. His share of the original will, signed over to the foundation. "Use it for the kids who don't have a grandfather like ours." The real test came in April. A major donor to the new foundation pulled out after a conservative blog called Adelyn, the woman who destroyed her family for millions. Avery found her crying in the garden. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm selfish." Avery knelt in front of her. "You're the bravest person I know. We didn't destroy anything. We built something new." They planted a tree that afternoon in grandfather's memory, white oak strong and lasting. By summer the foundation had helped 30 teenagers find safe housing. Avery's photography exhibit opened to glowing reviews. Adelyn's mother attended the opening night, sitting quietly in the back row. Small steps. Painful steps. But steps forward. On the first anniversary of the engagement party, Adelyn and Avery stood on the same beach where the second proposal had happened. The rings now sat permanently on their fingers. The sun set over Lake Michigan in streaks of gold and rose. Avery leaned against Adelyn's shoulder. "We made it. Not without scars, but we made it." Adelyn nodded, thinking of the empty chairs at family holidays, the trust fund she had walked away from. The night she still woke up wondering if she had been cruel. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Dinner next Sunday? Your father says maybe next time. Baby steps." Adelyn smiled and showed Avery. They walked hand in hand back to the car. The future stretching wide and uncertain but undeniably theirs. In the end, as Adelyn and Avery stood hand in hand watching the last light disappear over the water they had fought so hard to keep, one question remained. Was it truly right for Adelyn to sacrifice her family's entire legacy and her parents' approval for a love the world still judged? Or had she made the ultimate mistake in choosing her heart over her blood?